Happy Losar to you. Happy Losar to you. Happy Losar 2022. Let me get rid of that. Okay. Well, I'm in the dining room area this morning because it finally dawned on me that I can move to the dining room. Constance is right in there chopping. What are you chopping at the moment?
Celery.
What's that?
Celery.
It's chopping some celery in there. So if you hear the rhythmic chop, 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 it's not her pruning like she was yesterday, but she's cooking. Anyway, it is Losar, the Tibetan New Year. And we've got a good calendar that tells us these things. Anyway, let's talk about intent. Deepak Chopra says in a book called The Spontaneous Fulfillment of Desire. Let's just start with that title. Okay. That is just spontaneous fulfillment of desire. Now, when we start talking about sex magic and Aleister Crowley and the spontaneous fulfillment of desire, we have to admit that we're talking about some pretty heavy stuff. Creation of things. And the biggest thing that one human being with the cooperation with another human being can do is create another human being. So you've got to admit, if you follow the metaphor, the allegory of that, the formula of that, back down into even the quantum level, we're talking about what is holding creation together, what is creating, sustaining, and destroying the universe constantly. So we're dealing with a mechanism that is already connected to the source of all creation. Spontaneous fulfillment of desire. But anyway, I digress. What Deepak Chopra said in that book, intent is the mechanics through which spirit transforms itself into material reality. Now, I'm tempted just to say, be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. See you tomorrow. Intent is the mechanics through which spirit transforms itself into material reality. In the last few years, we've heard a lot about the law of attraction and the power of intent. At the risk of being shunned and ridiculed by the more hardcore wizards of the occult community, I have to confess my deep and abiding respect for the works of Louise Hay, Deepak Chopra, and Dr. Wayne Dyer, among others, for bringing to a wider audience of seekers and the fundamental secrets of true magic in ways that are understandable and acceptable to people of all spiritual backgrounds. Perhaps you don't think that such fluffy New Age pundits could actually be tossing around the supreme secret of the ages on public television, sandwiched between cooking shows and reruns of masterpiece theater. But they are. Magic may be the science and art of causing change to occur in conformity with will, but the mechanism of that will can at least partially be described by the single word intent. Magical theory suggests that everything in the universe is the product of intent. I wouldn't dare to attempt to prove this vast and unprovable statement. Gods forbid I would dare open the absurd intelligent design can of imaginary worms. I will, however, not hesitate to point out how many things in our shared reality, objects, inventions, events, ideas, religions, political movements, even our view of time, can demonstrably be the direct and unambiguous products of intention. Take this book as an example, and I'm reading from DuQuette's Low Magic. I can't praise this man enough. At home, anyway. Take this book as an example. It is my intent to communicate a few of my thoughts and experiences concerning magic to as many people as possible. It's also my intent to earn some money in order to help keep a roof over our heads and sustain a modicum of self-respect for myself and my family as I look to the fast approaching years of my dotage. It's my publisher's intent, among other things, to provide a quality literary product in such a way as to make the maximum profit from the minimum expenditure and to provide information and entertainment to the book-buying public, especially those individuals whose interests are in harmony with the publisher's philosophies and interests. Furthermore, it's the publisher's intent to keep his or her family of employees, subcontractors, printers, distributors, suppliers, etc., gainfully employed and contributing to the intended support and well-being of their families, communities, etc. As the reader, I'm assuming it's your intent, among other things, to enrich your life with the knowledge and ideas presented in this book, and to use this information and insight for your own intended applications. Magical intent has much in common with what we normally associate with the concept of willpower. It is, however, something much greater than the teeth-gritting power of concentration to force something to happen that was otherwise not going to happen. Magical intent is more a matter of seeing what you truly want so clearly that your vision, even your love of the vision, creates a living entity. Faced with the birth of this new cosmic citizen on the creative plane, the universe has no alternative but to rearrange conditions on the material plane to accommodate the complete manifestation of this now inevitable object or event. You might find this hard to believe, but I learned the secret power of magical intent when I was 6 years old. The inspiration, and don't be jealous, dear. This the inspiration for this operation was my kindergarten classmate, Linda Kaufman. Now, Linda, if you're still out there, I've let it go. I've found another. And besides, if you're still out there, you're really old. You're too old for me. Okay. Linda Coffin was the most beautiful girl at George Washington Carver Elementary School in Lakewood, California. I always arranged to sit near her for rhythm band and finger painting. She seemed to enjoy my antics, especially my sophisticated ability to bark like a sea lion. I also had the pity factor working for me because the first few months of my kindergarten year, I was forced by a serious hip condition to walk with the aid of crutches. And I'm not above using the pity factor, okay? So all's fair. I was insanely in love with her, and each night as I lay in bed, I fantasized how I would take her to the movies on a real grown-up date. I correct myself. It was not a fantasy. It was a vision of a perfect moment of love. A perfect vision of love given and love received. For months, I rehearsed the scene in my imagination. I would dress in a suit and tie. I watched the TV show Topper, okay? The old TV show Topper, 1950s, early 50s show Topper, about two ghosts, Marion and George Kirby, who got killed in a car accident, and they were rich, sophisticated folks, and Marion wore this beautiful cocktail dress all the time, and George was always, because they're ghosts, they're always, but anyway, they were sophisticated, and they were always drinking martinis, which is why they got in a car accident. And he wore a suit. They were my ideal, okay? But I digress. So I would be dressed in a suit and tie. I would somehow drive to her house and pick her up. I'd meet her parents. Her father would invite me into his den and offer me a cocktail, like they drank on the television show Topper. Then Linda would appear in a pretty new dress and we'd drive off to the movie theater. I'd buy us some popcorn, we'd find seats near the front and share our popcorn and giggle. Then, when the lights went down and the film began, she would take my arm, because I'd be too shy and polite to do it myself, and put it around her shoulders. And she and I would snuggle close for the whole movie. It was a lovely dream. And I was determined to make it happen. During Christmas vacation in 1954, I approached my mother in the kitchen and told her I wanted to take Linda Kaufman to the movies. I ordered her to call Linda's parents right now and arrange everything. It was a bold move. I was conjuring a dangerous demon. My mother could be unpredictably violent and cruelly abusive. In those days, she would throw fits in the kitchen and literally jump in the air and terrorize Mark and I. And I said she.
Probably perimenopause, but never mind.
Yes. Oh, it's totally understandable. Mom, I've almost let it go. I've let it go. But at the time, actually, she could be unpredictably violent and cruelly abusive. It was such an odd little demand, however, that I think I took her completely off balance. I didn't have the slightest doubt that she'd obey my command. She stared at me for a moment, then picked up the phone and called Linda's mother. They laughed and gossiped for what seemed like hours. Then she hung up, and it was a done deal. New Year's Day, 1955, was a Sunday. The perfect day for Linda and me to see the new biblical epic. Mom was quite the fundamentalist, so we saw a biblical movie. But as an Academy Award nominee, The Silver Chalice, okay. Warner Brothers.
Kids movie, huh?
Paul Newman,
Kids movie.
Virginia Mayo, and Jack Palance, who played Simon the magician, who tried to fly to show that he was stronger, and he fell to the ground. Well, anyway. Didn't affect me at all. Mom and my older brother Mark, he and his date would be our chaperones, waited in the car while I dressed smartly in my Sunday school sports jacket and clip-on tie, knocked on the door of the Kaufman residence. Her dad answered and invited me into his den and told me to sit down. Would you like something to drink? I couldn't believe this was happening. He poured us each a heavy highball glass of ginger ale and ice. I'd never tasted ginger ale before. Was this a cocktail? Linda soon appeared with her mother and spun around to show off her new dress. I was sure the ginger ale was taking effect. Everything, almost to the last detail, was happening exactly as I envisioned. And it didn't stop there. At the theater with my brother and his date, following discreetly behind us, I bought popcorn, and Linda and I found our seats near the front. We giggled and munched. And when the lights dimmed and the big Warner Brothers shield beamed at us from the silver screen, Linda Kaufman, my goddess, the love of my life, grabbed my arm and put it around her shoulders, where it remained locked in sweaty, painful ecstasy for the next 2 hours and 22 minutes. At that moment, I knew that my mind, my dreams, had the power to make things happen. I knew there was some kind of living intelligence that hears the yearnings of my heart. A being, a God, with the power to bring into reality anything I imagine, anything I intend. However, it would take me the better part of the next nearly 50 years to understand the nature of that power is love, and that without that vital ingredient in the recipe, my magic would always fall short of perfection. And that's where we'll end it today. We'll see you tomorrow. I don't know what holiday it'll be, but we'll celebrate it.
It'll be Friday.
It's Friday. It will be. Hopefully. I intend to be here tomorrow. Until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law. Love under well.